looking at Group D in that final match for England taking on the Czech Republic, going into it, the Czechs are actually top of the group. They're both on 4 points, of course, very likely to be going through. Croatia taking on Scotland. Both of those could end up on 4 points as well. So you really don't want to be losing this match. Who knows? You could end up third in the group. And I'm not sure for England it can be as comfortable as some may predict. I think the Czech Republic have been a solid team so far in this competition. They've proven that in their match against Croatia. They're not going to be a rollover at all. But I do think the home advantage at Wembley should count. And I also pray that there is a change of system and a change of personnel, because I believe there are a few players in this England squad who would have watched those first two games and said, hold on a minute, I think it's time I was given at least a start or some game time here, because these guys haven't delivered. Jules, what do you think about that England squad? What formation, what personnel should they use?
I mean, because I told you last time, and we agreed, I'm not a Southgate fan at all. Never been, never will be. But what happened against Scotland on Friday night was an absolute disgrace from start to finish. And it was probably even worse when you looked at the end of the game at the heat map to see that Rice and Phillips were literally playing next to each other. And don't give me but Phillips was more of an 8 in that. No, he wasn't. He was another 6. You played with 2 number 6, and Mount, Kane and Sterling were literally neighbors in that game. You know, they were literally living with each other. They were sharing a flat. And I'm just like, what is this? In which world are we living? How can England, with that much talent, plays like this and sets up like this against Scotland? A good, really spirited Scotland team with great players, of course, and they deserve their point and maybe even more. But from Southgate, I saw was such a letdown, so disappointing. That I'm with you. I'm really hoping that now Gareth Southgate said, do you know what? I messed that up completely. The first 2 games, even Croatia, because I was not convinced. Now we need to do something different. Now, come on, show us what you can do, Gareth. Show us that you can have good ideas, that tactically you can be astute. I don't think you can, but show us that you can, and bring Jadon Sancho in at some point, please. Please, you can't leave the poor kid on the bench again. I mean, why? Do you think that England is that good that you can even prevent yourself from having Jadon Sancho playing a few minutes? This is crazy.
Yeah, you guys know I'm the opposite. I like Southgate, and I'm desperate for him to do well. I'm desperate for England to do well. But I also said that he will be judged in this tournament, and I think he'll be judged in the second half of games, because that's where you earn your money, because you've got to kind of see what's going wrong and you've got to change it. And I think there were some really, really big mistakes here. First of all, I think not making enough substitutions, because you almost create narratives from that. The fact that you do take Kane off and you don't take Sterling off, take all three, if you really want to make big changes, take all 3 of them off. You could bring Rashford on, you could bring Sancho on, you could bring Grealish on, you can make all those changes. I think, we're so, as England fans, we're so desperate for the players to play with freedom. I think, yes, generally in tournament football, you've got to be a bit more pragmatic as you go on, certainly against good teams. But in this game, I think both the players, but also Southgate's got to have a bit of freedom. And the problem with him is that it is really coming into focus for me a bit more now, despite wanting to show that optimism, that he's got to be braver. His initial thought is don't lose, not go and win it. And there was no need for Phillips and Rice to be on the pitch. And also I thought what was strange was, again, we're talking about heat maps. Have a look at Luke Shaw and Reece James. I did not understand why they were not bombing on. They could have played in a very similar way to Kimmich and Goossens in terms of getting to the byline, because all this anger at Harry Kane is absolutely absurd. We've got a player here, in my opinion, we've got a player who's getting no service at all. This is forget the name of a player for a second. Here's a player who's won so many golden boots. I can't even count them anymore. More assists than any other player in the Premier League this season as well. Everyone's scrabbling around to get their hands on him, and people want him dropped after 2 games. It's not about Kane. It's about everything around it. And Southgate has to take a lot of responsibility for that, because he has got a plethora of options. And I agree. I think we've got to make changes. Sancho needs to get involved. Grealish needs to get involved in this game. We don't need those 2 defensive midfielders. Let's go for it. Let's have that Holland game from Euro 96. Let's change it all up and let's score some bloody goals.
I watched that Germany game and I thought, why on earth aren't England playing like this? Harry Maguire's going to come back. He should play as the left side of 3 centre-halves. John Stones in the middle. Kyle Walker on the right-hand side. He can play that role that Ginter was playing, stepping forward, getting on the ball, playing passes into midfield. You can push Reece James high up the pitch. You can push Ben Chilwell or Luke Shaw if you want high up the pitch. Get them in the final third. Luke Shaw's delivery has been great so far this year. Ben Chilwell knows the role from his time at Chelsea. If you want to play Declan Rice, put a passer alongside him. I mean, put a Mason Mount there, who he's really industrious, but he also has that first thought is forward. He's an attacking-minded player. You don't need two, especially in a 3-4-3. And then play more narrow, just like Germany did. Imagine you've got Serge Gnabry or Leroy Sané. These players have shown how great they are in really wide areas. Joachim Löw has no issue pushing them more narrow. We've got Phil Foden. Raheem Sterling, if you really want him to play, but if you want a more creative player, for me, you can play Jack Grealish in there. I think you can play Marcus Rashford as one of those tucked in alongside Harry Kane, because, of course, if you're going to get the ball wide and put it into the box, he's almost a semi-centre forward.
Hugh,
he's going to be throwing ball in there.
Hugh, can I ask you this, mate?
There are more options for England in a 3-4-3. I think it's safer for them. And I also think, just on what you said, James, about the substitutions, you can ask your two wing-backs to run themselves into the ground for an hour, and you can bring two more wing-backs, Trippier or Chilwell or Shaw, whoever started the game. You can bring the other one on. There's just so many more.
We're so exasperated, aren't we, Hugh?
No, but it also, for me, is safer for England. I actually think that formation is safer for England because we've said all along their strength is not in defence. Well, now you've got 5 defenders on the pitch and Declan Rice. If you can't stop the ball going in the back of the net with that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Hugh, is there any way that you, no one seems to sort of had looked at this, but I know we were talking about Phillips and we're all excited about him getting on. Is there any way that you, because I was frustrated with his ability to play the ball forward quicker, is there any way that you take Rice out and you play Phillips as that holding midfielder?
I don't mind that personally because I think Kalvin Phillips is better on the ball. He's more mobile, and that's the role that he's played for Leeds United. No, not in this system, but he has played as the pivot, basically, the deep-lying playmaker, if you like. Okay, he's not Thiago Alcantara or anything like that, but I think he can get on the ball. He can start those attacks. He can hit the diagonal balls. And Declan Rice, with the ball at his feet, although he's not bad, that's not the best attribute of his game. He's there to break play up. He's very physical. He's great at set pieces. You know, he's good in terms of his organisation, and maybe he's got a little bit more top-level experience than Kalvin Phillips. But, of course, Phillips is an older player. He's also shown in this tournament, you know, it hasn't phased him whatsoever. But also, you've got to remember, you've got Jordan Henderson there. You've got Jude Bellingham there. I mean, like I say, there are so many options for this squad. I have absolutely no idea why Gareth Southgate isn't doing something slightly different for this game against the Czech Republic, because I believe they'll win this game with either formation. So why not try something out?
Yeah. Julien, it's always great to get your perspective of, because as someone who's kind of from outside of it, the one thing I do, we've spoken about so many changes all of us would love to make. Is there danger in that? Because when I do look at that French team, it's very, you know, they know each other, as Hugh said earlier on, that it's very sort of solid in who is your starting 11. Could that be a problem for England if there are too many changes made?
But not if it's not working. That's the only thing. Had the game against Scotland be a 3-0 win, for example, with really good football, solidity, intensity, and momentum, you think, okay, this is good. But the problem was there were so many things that went wrong in that game from players, and they have to take responsibility as well, their own performances, regardless of what the instruction was. I agree with you on the fullbacks. How can you ask Shaw and James to not go forward is beyond me. But again, this is the conservatism of Southgate. But so many things went wrong that it's really the time now to change. And also because, like you said, the Czech Republic, a draw, and they're happy. So they're going to play for a 0-0 draw, trust me. And if they can nick a goal there by Patrick Schick or someone else like that, they will go for it. But with a 0-0 draw, they're very, very happy. So they will be even more solid than usual. You can see Souček probably playing even more as a centre back in front of the back four, and you can make sure that that's probably how they will approach the game. So bring a bit of flair, please. Drop one of the two between Rice and Phillips. I don't mind which one. I agree with you again. I think if you go on the front foot for that game, play Phillips just as well for the physicality, and he's going to chase everything and he's going to run perfect. Play him there and then go with the flair and go with the flow and make this team sexy and seducing us, because right now it's been too boring.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.